Right, this is going to be another episode of the Best Damn League show with me and Dom. And of course, let's just get straight into it. Like, I actually feel like the place we have to start on this episode is I didn't watch the ERLs. This was actually one of the few times in the last maybe 3 or 4 years I didn't watch EU Masters at all. And I have to say, I actually missed out because of all the times I've watched Dom and I watched the people in the finals and they're hyping them on the broadcast like, this is your next LEC top lane. It's like, they're not. Like, he's going SK Gaming or like the old Schalke, they're getting kicked after 6 months. XL, these are all the teams that would take those players, give him one try and then go, actually, he's not actually caps, so throw him away. And then, but you know what's sad? I actually missed the Noah guy. He actually is the truth, Tom. He actually is pretty good. Like,
yeah, he's insane.
What's not to like? Fnatic's really good.
Unfortunately for you, if you watched EU Masters, you probably would not have had that impression because he was on a team that didn't win a game in EU Masters. They were just like, They got shit on. Maybe they won one game at the end, but they were eliminated without winning a game, essentially. They looked like they couldn't compete. It is what it is. When you have EU Masters right now, you have LFL, you have LVP, you have the German League, and you have Turkey. And if you're not in one of those 4 ERLs, you're probably not going far in the tournament. And yeah, I mean, it was just tough for him. He was on a team that wasn't that good. But if you saw him in solo queue and you watched his stream, you knew he was good instantly. I actually got put onto him really early because Treats plays a lot of solo queue and I was doing a lot of co-streams with Treats. And Treats just told me, like, in January, Treats was like, this is one of the best AD carries I've ever played with in my entire life. And I'm like, wait, this random like ERL guy? I'm like, and this was, I think, before he got rank 1. And then he just got rank 1 in like 2 weeks. I started watching his stream. No, he's fucking good. Like, that guy is really, really solid, which is part of the reason why I had Fnatic in the top 4. I mean, I just thought that this guy would be good enough. Even if Trimby was still having a bad year, this guy would be good enough to elevate the team to at least top 4.
By the way, normally, you know, plebs, their comments, who cares? It's for the birds, Dom. It's not for you and me. Every now and then, the internet will crowdsource something funny, though, which is, I did see a comment that did really make me laugh about Treats, which is obviously he's over applying his trade, stealing them checks again in the LCS, right? And spoiler, I told people this in the past, I've even heard he even got mega paid when he was at SK. He was like the one guy they were really paying. It was the others that were like the smaller names or whatever. That's why he stayed there a while, I've heard. But all I'll say is this, someone just made a comment where if you saw how dodgy some of those Immortals games were. Someone just put a comment where they put, like, I wish I could actually hear Treats on the core stream talking about Treats playing in the game now. Because they were just putting all the quotables. You know, it's so disgusting. Like, because if you don't know, guys, Treats also does that, like, super elitist sort of, like, worldview of sort of, like, it's a disgrace. What are they doing? Like, he doesn't. And the joke is you could just use that soundboard so many of those. Because if people don't know, he plays the tactical again. He's back. He's like a moth to the flame of fucking NHX.
I think the sad part about that is that Tactical literally now looks like the best part of Immortals.
Actually, he's not bad, is he?
Ever since Treats became the support, Tactical is now the best player on the team. And Kenvi just, I don't know, this guy just can't play the game. Like, when I watch Immortals, it's one of the hardest things to watch as a jungler. I've never seen this before. You like, brief Immortals topic. I talked about it on Power Spike. When was the last time you saw a jungler go 6 games without making one play? Like, there was like not one positive play, not one invade, not one good early dragon, not one good team fight engage, not one skirmish. Like, literally not one good play in 6 games. This guy is trash.
Back to the topic, though. Fnatic are the truth, like I said. Like, here's the thing, Dom. I had them as being good, but obviously I had certain other teams being really good too, who've been a bit dodgy. As it stands right now, they actually are. They should be a contender. They actually look really legit. Like, it's like I said on the last episode too. To me, the canary in the coal mine is always going to be Razork. He looks like he's having a fucking great time. He's actually like finally able to play the game properly. It's not just the odd 1 out of 4 games where he's not in the fucking nightmare simulator. Like, it's actually pretty good. In general, like, what's not to like about the team? Yeah, maybe top side's not super strong. That's about it. The rest of the team looks really good. Humanoid's not maybe his absolute peak, but he's having good games here and there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that I just think that they're top 2. It's Fnatic G2. And I mean, look, maybe that's what we need in LEC to drive some hype is we need a Fnatic G2 finals again where Fnatic actually looks really insane. I mean, if you were to go right now and you were going to talk about MVP candidates, I think Noah is probably the MVP of the league so far. Like, this guy is just immortal. He doesn't make any mistakes. Like, that's the thing that's so nice is he's playing aggressive, but it's not like he's playing aggressive and there's like 5 mistakes for like every like 6 good plays. It's no mistakes and only good plays out of Noah. So Yeah, this guy is really insane. He's completely transformed the team, and you could tell the mentality of the players is so much different from playing with an AD carry that they truly believe in to carry the game no matter what. Like, people don't have that stress that they had before, where, you know, you'd see in interviews, Razor would talk about, oh, I'm gonna make a play here because I know if we don't make a play here, we're gonna lose the game. So I'll make a play, and I'd rather just, you know, go out swinging and make a bunch of plays that don't make sense than just sit there and do nothing and lose. That was his whole mentality. Now it doesn't feel like he's pressured to do that. He can make the plays that he wants to play because he has the insurance policy bot lane. He knows that his AD carry is going to be a fucking menace late game, so he can just play the game the way he wants to play it.
If you saw the interview he did, I think it was after the Mad Lions game. I think it was on the weekend. The interview where Razork did, where they do that thing I love, Dom, which is that players just don't have the best memory and they don't think of like past contexts. So if you know, right, Razork is actually just a really honest guy. It seems like he just answers. He doesn't have too much PR training. And so his answer, if you go and listen, Dom, is all really positive. It's about what you're talking about. It's the idea that like now, you know, they can rely on the bottom side of the map and they can make players as a result. But the joke is, if you actually listen to it all, like low key, if you think about it, fans, he essentially just flamed the fuck out that whole reckless bot lane, didn't he? Like, you don't think it out through because it has to contrast with whatever was the situation before. Like, why would he bring all that up now if everything was great before? Like, essentially, as far as I can tell, like, the joke here is this is the worst time ever for you reckless stands, because not only did he role swap out of his fucking main role and no one knows if you'll ever see him back again, but Fnatic just looks way better without him. Like, it wasn't even like he was at his absolute worst at the end, but look how irrelevant it is now. Like, this guy is someone where if you didn't know the backstory, everyone would be crying. Like, why are they picking up this random guy who's a nobody? It's like, because he's a fucking top prospect. Look, take the nameplates off. Look how good this guy is. So, to me, it's rejuvenated the whole league, because obviously we're going to talk about some of the other big names. Some of the other big names look sus as fuck. Think about where everyone's top four was before this split began. It's only G2. That's it. They're the only one that's made it so far. The rest all look... Even their fucking touch and go, mate. They have some games where it's like, I don't know about this. Like, I think they'll drop a bunch more sus ones before the end of the split, mate. Just wait and see. I think everyone except G2. I mean, Fnatic, I'll give them that status. It's Fnatic and G2 I'm with you, mate. Because the others right now, fucking hell. I think there's actually a lot more parity in the league than the results suggest.
Yeah, I mean, there's Fnatic and G2, and then there's everyone else essentially right now. But I think that like Mad Lions, I had them being top 4. I still think they'll be a top 4 team. I just don't believe in like the majority of the league. Like, who is good right now in LEC? I don't even know who the 4th best team is in LEC, because I don't believe it's Heretics. Like, Heretics is technically top 4.
No way.
There's no way watching their games that you actually feel like they are a top 4 team. I mean, with the loss to
so many as well. They could have lost a lot of these games. No, like, here's the sad thing, right? People, and we'll just do it right now to trigger the fuck out of everyone. Obviously, nothing has changed about Vitality. I haven't watched them and gone like, there's that team I wanted to see. But here's the saddest thing of all, Dom. They're never just losing the games from like fucking the beginning to the end. Like, they're always in these games. In these moments, they're always like, yeah, there's that one. Aside from that, they're always like in the game, or they get kills, or it looks okay at the small. But man, they just have no team play whatsoever. It's fucking atrocious. I agree with you. I wish they'd all just play like 5 individuals at this point in time. Stop trying to make team. Like, they have just ruined Ball's entire style of jungling, mate. What was the point of this? Think of all the clips that people like you and Cadril watching on stream when everyone's getting hyped about him being in Europe on solo queue. He doesn't do any of that shit. He just plays like some basic bitch fucking, I'll come back to cover you now. Oh, shit. I've lost all my camps. Brilliant. It's nothing. This isn't what I was hyped about.
I mean, yeah, they've definitely lost confidence in him as a player. I mean, if you're opening the week and the first thing you're doing is B1ing Poppy, which is like a counter pick to Dash champions. If you're B1ing that, and then the next game you're like R5 Nocturne, then you go, no, actually you're back on tank duty. B fucking or R1 R2 Maokai. You just go from these two, like, these draft strategies. This is whiplash in the draft. So you can tell that the players just don't think he's good. Like, they just don't believe in him as a player. They have him on, you know, the most basic junglers possible. And it's not like carry junglers don't exist. Like, if you watch like LPL, Kindred is more meta now than it was when he was picking it originally. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to play Kindred, Kha'Zix, these types of champions. They just think that he's bad at it. So the coach has decided to make this happen. But I gotta say, man, this is like one of the worst uses of talent I've seen. Like, I don't know if I've seen a super team that had this much talent look this bad. This is crazy levels of bad, considering you know, the players on the roster. And I just wonder like what type of coaching is actually like going on here, because to me, I can't imagine that this is the solution. This is the best version of it. Like, this is the best coaching you could have done. The players are actually just exposed and they're this bad. But I mean, look, you could tell that Bo's given up. you can tell that he is literally like griefing the games now. Like he just wants to fucking leave. Like he wants to fucking leave. And I haven't seen that in a while out of a player. Like I've seen players like that weren't themselves, but it literally looked like Bo was inting in the game versus Fnatic. It looked like he was trying to fucking lose. And that was really crazy to watch. I'm like, damn, like this guy was also hyped for having like really good mental. That's what people were saying. They're like, look at how he interacts with his teammates. He doesn't have ego. That was what people were saying was one of his best qualities, like is that he doesn't have ego. And now you're just seeing him run it down. So, I mean, they're just not happy. And I just can't see it being fixed to any reasonable degree. Like maybe, like this is the thing. Maybe it's not doomed for them making top 8 just because the whole league is so bad right now. If you look at the teams, actually, and you look at the roster.
The strength of schedule, they could still do it. They could get to the groups.
Yeah, they have very, very easy strength of schedule. Like they play against Koi, BDS, and XL. Like that's and those are like
teams in the league, absolutely.
Yeah, literally like the teams that are looking the worst right now. And there's 4 teams that are 2-4. So only down 1 game on four teams, and they actually have easier schedule than these teams. So it's possible, but it's like I don't even want to watch it anymore. Like when I'm watching like Vitality, it's like, all right, just fucking toss it in. It reminds me of like the Team Liquid teams I was on, if we let it snowball and get as bad as possible. Like if there was breakpoints in that run in like 2015 where it's like we were, you know, in like 6th place in the regular season for a little bit. And you could tell within the team, like I could tell within the team, it could go one of 2 ways. Either we bounce back or it's going to go like, it's going to be the most embarrassing thing of all time. We're going to be literally one of the worst teams in the league. It looks like Vitality has actually done that. They were at that middle level where it's like, are we going to like come back at all, or are we going to let it all collapse? And it's just all collapsed.
Because the problem I have is, like you say, especially if you look at the strength of schedule, and like I say, they're not getting like actually battered in these games. They're just being absolute shit when they actually have to make some moves themselves or understand how to do some fucking macro play. So to me, the real nightmare if you're a Vitality fan is this. You actually probably should hope that they just bomb here, that somehow they don't win any more games, and then they are forced to just break the team fundamentally apart. And at this point in time, when you look at their roster, there's still a bunch of good players, but at this point, you pick like 2 and you move on for next year. You know what I mean? Like it's like what happened with Fnatic last year. You never should have taken that team apart 1 part at a time. It needed to just be ripped in half, and you pick the half you think's better, you stick with that and you rebuild. Because to me, the real problem is I expect them to actually just win 1 or 2 more games, creep into the fucking groups. Then there's 2 worlds. Either they get it slightly together, but probably not enough to win the league, or there's just going to be more of this. It's going to be more suffering. It's going to be a whole.
I mean, they could be a bad team and still end up top 4. That's the thing that I think you have to say about LEC, because no one looks, it's like we said at the beginning, no one looks good. Who looks good outside of Fnatic and G2? What other team do you have confidence in? Maybe Mad Lions, right? So let's say Mad Lions is another team that like, okay, they have enough pieces, they've played well enough that they're top 3. Who is the 4th best team? Because the next 2 teams to choose from in the standings are Heretics and XL. And I don't believe in either of those teams. Like if you saw what XL did this week, they just band-aided everything. They're like a Azir every game and a tank jungler. And that is like the core of their whole strategy. They just went Azir every game where other people were not viewing Azir as OP. By the way, Azir is just going to be OP in LEC because LEC players can't flank. So they're just going to be playing front to back with Azir. This is just a broken champion for LEC. XL caught onto it first, and they were able to band-aid the fact that Peach was just not able to like play mechanical junglers. He wasn't able to play Wukong. I mean, he just didn't look good.
He's just a bad jungler, mate. He's just a bad jungler.
He's just not a good player.
He's a fundamentally bad player.
Yeah, they just put him on Maokai and Poppy, which is just easy to affect the game if there's not a lot that needs to be done. There's different types of Maokai and Poppy games, right? There's Maokai and Poppy when you're playing it with Jace, and it's like, okay, like we need to, you know, actually do something. We have to have some good setups. We need to poke. And then there's just Maokai thrown into an Azir comp where it's just like press your R and try to fucking take some damage, and that's your only job in the fight. So XL and Heretics, I don't know. I don't know who the 4th best team is right now. That being said, like I don't know, man. It's to the point where I think the 4th seed from LCS might end up winning that best of, because if people don't know how the format works, LEC and LCS get 3 teams each, and then the 4th team from each region plays the best of 5 against each other. And I think right now, the 4th seed, I think the top of LEC is better, but I think the 4th seed right now from LCS is better than the 4th seed of LEC.
Problem is, if I actually had to pick, assuming we're taking G2 Fnatic, then probably Mad Lions as the top three. The fourth right now, even though they don't have a very good record, probably be BDS, mate. If I had to pick someone, I'd probably take them. And they're not looking fucking good right now at all. By the way, on that XL one, here's where people don't get it, right? If you're thinking like, oh, but XL's finally gone on a run after all those problems, that's a terrible sign because this isn't even a fucking good lineup. Like, look at it. It's a fundamentally just whack as fuck LEC lineup. It's so cynically put together where a guy for real does look like he was like, I used to be in Schalke. Anyone out there on the fucking wireless? Any Schalkers out there want to come and help on the team? Like, mate, he's just recruited his old shitter boys from the old fucking teams that were good 3 years ago. It's just average as fuck his XL. And spoiler, everyone else in the entire LEC must just be Caster Troy, I guess, Tom, because they're like, Peach, I could eat a peach for hours. Like, straight fire reference. Anyone knows that? Shout out to fucking Face Off from whatever it was, 1997, I believe it was, John Woo Classic. The Best Damn League Show is, of course, brought to you by eSportsBet, where as well as their classic first-time deposit bonus, 50% on up to 100 USDT, they are also running a Match of the Week promotion where we've selected Evil Geniuses versus Cloud9 over in the LCS, the two top-ranked teams. That's right, Evil Geniuses is actually back near the top of the table again. And for this one, you can get a 10% bonus on the first bet on the match up to 100 USDT or the equivalent value in another cryptocurrency or DJT. So check that out if you want to get a little bit extra out of your bets, in this case for the LCS marquee matchup. Speaking of, let's do the BDS topic bit. Because look, one, yes, there's an asterisk, which is apparently Adam was ill and he couldn't play this week and they had to bring in the sub aggressive who played the Renekton, etc. But mate, this team in general, we called this right at the beginning, but it might be even worse. Dude, this team doesn't even look it's going to contend this split. Like, the pieces are all the same in theory when Adam comes back, but it's just such a fundamentally weaker team. Like, you would really, I know patches have changed and stuff, but you would think it was like a totally different lineup from the one last split, the one where they could only lose in the finals and because of all those close games. Like, this team right now looks so uninspired, mate. They just look like if the rest of the table was bad, they would actually just be middle of the table. They would never make any more than that. But the fact that the league is so bad, I still feel like they'll just sneak in and be fourth or something, mate. But what a fucking underwhelming split to me. Like, to me, BDS, you just had your window, mate. It's been and gone. You've had it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't believe in that team anymore. I had them fifth going into the season. Maybe they could make fourth, but I'm not seeing anything that shows me that they're necessarily better than, Heretics and XL right now. Like, when I'm watching the games that they're playing, it's really tough to watch. It feels like a lot of the things that made them strong before, they're just not good at. Like Sheo, for example, was a really good pathing juggler. He was really smart about how to get leads, and he would play champions that were essentially, they essentially didn't have major weaknesses. And if he was able to get a lead, like, he would just be able to push it throughout the game. He would build tank and he could be frontline. And he would just make the right plays at the right time, set up for Drakes and just allow, create good situations for Crowdy to carry and good situations for Nuck to carry. Sheo does not look like even a top 5 jungler anymore, which is something that's crazy. I mean, people are saying he's fringe MVP candidate. He could be one of the best junglers in the league. Maybe he's the best jungler in LEC in spring. I don't know, man. At this point, I just feel like he's performing like one of the worst. And he somehow lost like vision in team fights. When I'm watching him play, he doesn't understand where his carries are and when they can hit and when they can't hit. So a lot of times he's just like running in. It's kind of like watching like ERL players where they start the fight and they just fight until they're dead. It's like, bro, you could like back off here. There's a push and pull. Like, you walk forward so your AD carry can hit a couple times. Then your AD carry has cooldowns, or you miss some spells. Then you walk back. You wait until you have cooldowns back up, or like somebody like heals off a camp or something. Then you walk back in. There's none of that. It's just like, we're fighting. I'm in. All right, I'm dead. We fucking lost. It feels really weird. Adam, obviously he was sick. Yeah, he was sick in this last game. Or like, I guess he was sick this week. I'm not sure if last week he was already sick, but even last week it didn't look good. And in general, it just seems like they're figured out. I mean, they're another team. Look, this is what I predict to happen. I think that LEC next week, teams are going to just watch what XL did and be like, all right, everyone should just first pick Azir. So everyone who's not Fnatic at G2 is just going to be first picking Azir because, and maybe Mad Lions. Maybe Mad Lions doesn't need to first pick Azir either because they're qualified, right? Like, all the teams that are essentially qualified, they're going to be the teams that are going to be a little bit more experimental. But all these really bad teams are just going to be like Azir and a tank, and we're just going to play front to back because that is, at its core, the most successful style for LEC. Tank tops, tank jugglers, Like long range carries mid, 80 carries, and challenger supports. Boom. That's your team comp.
Yes. Well, the joke is we are back to Misfits last year. It's back again, Dom. The nightmare meta, that the real secret code to get unlimited shurikens in fucking the version of LEC, Super Nintendo Entertainment System game, is, as you say, to tank top, bruiser / tank top laner, jungler that's a tank, a Zay mid, and then just an enchanter. Spoiler. By the way, speaking of which,
works.
You know, everyone was given all those props to BDS staff justifiably last split, right? I want to take you for a second, Tom, into their draft against Heretics, right? Imagine you and me have one task. You know those old interviews I did? We have one task, Tom. We get to control the draft of BDS for this game. But if we lose draft, the whole world is over. It's eliminated from space by Darth Vader with a fucking Death Star, right? If there's two things I'm probably not going to do against Heretics, Tom, number one, probably wouldn't give Evie his old fucking Cassante. And then if I was doing that, say I fucked up and I gave him the Cassante, I definitely wouldn't give Mercer Yumi. I definitely wouldn't do both in the same game. Dude, they're just trying to make these games harder. Like, why are we doing this draft? Like, Heretics is already, like, sus, but, like, middle of the table. Like, why just give them, like, all the fucking tools? I don't get it, mate. This is so silly, this draft, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also the fact that they're playing with a top laner that they don't, like, really play with. Like, they don't know what this guy does, and maybe he's playing a lot of Renekton, and they're like, okay, Renekton Cassante is a pretty popular matchup nowadays. So maybe that was part of why they thought that would be something that they could do. Oh, give him Cassante. We know what he's going to play. We'll play somebody that at least has like pressure on it. But this game is really on Sheo to play the map well. And I think Sheo had probably his worst game of the entire split. I mean, the Renekton actually did look good at a point. There was a point where Renekton was like 4 kills. It's like, all right, man, like you can actually do something right now. Like you have that like unkillable frontliner that also does damage at a point in the game, and they weren't able to leverage it at all. It was like instantly they got into a bad fight where like both carries are split off, and the Renekton is kind of like solo taking 4 people for no reason, and the whole game explodes. So, I mean, the draft is not good, but I can understand where they're coming from, and I think it was a winnable game. Like if they just played a little bit better, it was a super winnable game.
Thing is, though, by the way, I have to say, after the point you made a few weeks ago about all the Nikos in Europe, you're so right, mate. You can just see them on your screen the whole time if you're the opposing team. You're like, oh, at least we don't have to worry about him flagging us because he's right there. Just because here's the maddest thing, Dom. Why are they playing like they're a wave clear mid laner just like stood behind the tower? Like, what are you doing? Like, the whole point of that is to do flanks all day long. They never flank anyone, mate. It's so stupid, isn't it? Half the time they're on a ward as well when they're attempting the flag. It's so shit. Like, I don't know why they're picking it, because every time I watch it, the LPL, it's like you say, it's a fucking nightmare if you're the team fight team. Like, shit, where is he? It's behind us. But like, you don't ever have to worry in LEC. You can just, it's like you go, it's like some Where's Waldo shot. Like, where's what? Oh, there he is. Oh, next to nothing. No problem. Oh, there he is. No, don't turn the page then. No problem with that one. Fucking hell, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that the only thing that LEC might have over LPL in terms of Nico play is they're really good at doing that emote bullshit bug where the Nico extends the helicopter Nico bug. So Niski was mastering that. I mean, they don't flank, they don't like play the champion well in team fights. It's just a losing champion when it comes to LEC. I think that it could be played, but the priority that they had on it was like the same priority that you have in other regions where that champion will win you the whole game. They're like, other regions like, okay, if they leave Nico up, we B1 it. It's like, you realize you're giving over like Zeri, Yumi, and like, you know, the fucking, and Vi and the best juggler of the game as well. You realize that this is what you're doing. If you do it, yeah, fuck it. Like, it's worth it. Nico is that OP. LEC had that same prio for like a lower than average mid laner. You could play some Nico if it's a good spot, but for the most part, you should be playing the champions that are good in LEC. This is when Larson needs to actually start playing his champions again if he wants Koi to win. Just play Orianna, play Victor, play Azir, just play your shit and you know, yeah, just take your easy wins. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be some long, boring ass games, but hey, I mean, at least you'll get some dubs on the board.
By the way, obviously, people are going to be hyped about Heretics because of how bad the old team was, etc. The problem is, this team's actually about exactly where I thought they would be, Dom. Like, I actually thought they should be able to steal some wins from people. It's better than you expect. There's still massive glaring flaws in the lineup that cannot be overcome. But here's the thing. When you look at it, this is where strength of schedule just fools people, mate. The next week, they basically play games they're probably going to lose all 3. They are going to go 0-3, which means they will end, like, 4-5, which is about what what they should be. They'll be about like 6th or 7th team. They'll be in the groups, and then in the groups, maybe they can get another one upset, but that's about it. Like, the problem with this team I have is, like, some of the parts are good, but it's got to keep changing. Like, this can't be the final version of the team. And it looks like they were well coached, but that can only take you so far. Like, you have to also, the players have to be able to win the games. Like, I think this team, there's no way they survive, mate. They just look too sus. They can win these BO1s, but I think group players going to absolutely wreck this team.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially got almost the dream schedule early on. I mean, if your first 2 games are SK Astralis, it's like it's so nice for your mentality too, because you like ease your way into LEC. You get maybe a win on the board, and you're like, okay, we can actually do this. As opposed to, you know, the teams that had to play G2, Fnatic, they're just getting fucking blasted at the beginning of the season. They just feel like everything's doomed from the get-go. I definitely think that helped, but it's very simple what the team needs to do. They just need a top laner that's competent. They just need to kick Evie from the team. I don't understand why this guy is still on the team. Like, he doesn't do any, like, even when they win games, it's in spite of him trying to lose the games. It's like Peach. It looks the same way, where it's like, okay, this guy is doing his best to lose. You might win, but he's doing his best to lose. There has to be a top 10 top laner in Europe. Like, the fact they didn't go all out on getting somebody like Wonder, or maybe like somebody like Alfari, you should have done something to get some type of stability top. They don't need to be one of the best top laners in the league. They just need to be able to not in games that are already winnable, because the bot and the bot and mid and jungle, like the bot side of the map, they get their games in winnable spots. So it's not like they ever need to rely on top lane to do something extra. They just need their top laner to not int, and that's already too much in most cases. I don't know. This team, if this is the 4th best team in Europe, then Europe is fucked. Like, it's just plain and simple. So is what it is. If this is the 4th best team in Europe, the region is fucked.
Luckily, I'm not as far gone on that one. I don't believe they are, Dom. Like I said, I think it's just these BO1s have let them look, and strength of schedules just let them look better than they are. But they'll fall. It's all good. They'll fall. Right. What about this then?
I hope.
So you referenced them earlier, mate. What I told, if people wonder, remember, I really enjoy Larsen's game. Why would I be so out on Koi? Because this is a team that has not only been brutalized by the fucking GMing. By the way, great job giving away Trimby, you fucking idiots. Like, you know, you're probably never going to have a player that good at support ever again on this team. Like, that's over for you. So you've already fucked that up. But then the other thing is, this team is now less than the sum of their parts. Like, on paper, it should still be a couple of good players that could still do something. And like you were saying earlier, Dom, they even tried to do like global meta shit. The one thing I always appreciated about Koi when they were rogue is they stuck to their guns. They just picked whatever they wanted, like you're saying. If it was the classic mid lane meta of mages, then that's all Larsen's going to be on. Maybe he chucks in the odd LeBlanc game or a Silence game just here or there to keep you guessing in draft. But aside from that, he's going to his cause. He's going to the Azir. He's going to Oriana. These are just the champions he's always going to be the best on. Now they not only try like weird ass drafts, and they just keep trying to invert their team and be some kind of top lane team, which I don't get at all, because fucking Shiganda never makes out of lane, mate. He's never able to do anything. What a waste of a time this team is. Like, I think this team it's not even bad in terms of players. It's just a shit setup, mate. Like, why would this team ever be top 4? Why would this team ever make a run and have a chance to go to Worlds? They should be able to. Think about where they started the year, but I'm so out on this squad, mate. They don't even really have an identity to me. That's the saddest part.
Yeah, they've got to be one of the worst teams to watch in LEC, just from like an enjoyment perspective. When you're watching the games, like even when Vitality loses, like it's kind of fun. It's like, oh, the super team's failing. It's like, exciting. Holy shit! Like are they actually going to be this bad? When Koi plays, you're dreading it. Like as somebody who live views the game, like, oh fuck, Koi is playing. It's going to be like a 35-minute like slow bleed. They're going to do nothing, lose, and it's just going to be tough to watch. I don't know. The team. They're missing something for sure. There's something just completely off with the way that they like communicate with each other. It just feels like everyone is just doing their own thing. It's like they're playing no comms permanently. And yeah, Malrong, he's just not the same player that he was last year. And I feel like the whole reason, when you say what could the angle be for this team to make top 4? Yeah, I mean, if they actually just believe in Malrong and they think he is the best jungler in LEC, then that would have been the angle, right? Like, then you can have these types of players and he'll just connect everything and he'll just make the game super easy for everyone. But it doesn't feel like he's seeing the game well. It doesn't feel like he's putting his teammates in positions to like win the game easily or anything like that. And they're essentially just a worse version. I mean, it's what we said before. They're just a worse version of old Koi. They're just a worse version of Rogue.
By the way, you know that I just looked it up. Larsen's contract ends at the end of this year. Mate, if I'm him, I'm just going somewhere else. Like, what's the point in staying this point? You know what I mean? Like, they'd have to completely rehaul the squad if I'm going to stay at this point in time. This is the worst time ever to have your best player be up for free agency at the end of the year.
I feel like that's a really interesting topic because the thing, like, the question is, where would he go? Based on the fact that it doesn't seem like other players like really big up Larson. Like when you talk to players, they're like, oh yeah, he's like the mage guy. He's good at what he does, but he's not the attractive mid laner that everyone wants. He doesn't have that, that aura. Like for example, when Humanoid won his titles, everyone wanted Humanoid. They're like, this guy is like, he's just better than Caps. He's the next Caps. I just wonder if he'd get a really good spot because I mean, if Fnatic gets their things together, would they actually trade Humanoid for Larson? Like would they make that situation if they're winning? That's a question. G2 has Caps. If Caps wants to play a G2, I feel like he's just going to play a G2 for the rest of his life. And then you look at the other teams, Mad Lions with Niski. I feel like with the way Mad Lions players want to play, Niski's probably a better fit than Larson. And then you start looking at the other teams. It's like, are any of those teams upgrades to potentially him staying on Koi and them just building a slightly better team around him? Like maybe the place would be like BDS, for example. Like I feel like Larson would fit well into BDS, and maybe that could be a thing. But I just don't know if BDS has that level of like esteem in the region where people are going to think, oh yeah, this is actually going to be a good team in the future, or if they're going to be a one and done, they had one good split, but no one actually thinks they're going to be good.
Yeah, on the Humanoid point, as far as I know, because his contract doesn't end until the end of next year, and I've heard it's fucking enormous because of how all the Mad Lion shit went down. The problem is, that's what I was told behind the scenes as to why they could never move Razork and or Humanoid. It's like, it's just too much money. It's not worth it. There's no point benching them because once you have to pay, you might as well ride it out, basically. So, unfortunately, unless somehow Koi wanted to just do a straight swap, I don't really see how that would happen. Because I'm with you, like on paper, I think that would be a great move if you could bring Larson into Fnatic. Like, it's a quality squad. They've dealt with Swedish players in the past. They have a history there and all that jazz. Like, I think it could work, but yeah, I mean, why would they? Like you say, unfortunately, this is where business gets in the way of like fantasy teams and how you want to put them together on paper. Now, another of the classic bonuses they offer at eSportsBet is, of course, their first-time risk-free bets. If you've never made a crypto bet on the website, you can go make one up to 100 USDT. Then, if you lose the bet, go to the Discord, discord.gg/esportsbet, message the mod mill, tell them you did the risk-free first-time bet. They will credit your account up to the original stake, which could be up to 100 USDT. So very good to take if you want to do a big underdog bet. Maybe you want to do one of these ones over in LCK, the nice juicy ones over there, right? Right, what about this then? I'll tell you a team that I think we're the only people seem to have nailed in the entire fucking region, Dom. It's actually crazy to me. Dude, how did no one else see this collapse of SK? That makes me think that people are just losing track even of the narratives of the splits. Like, guys, they weren't even that good in spring. They looked sus already. They were losing games all over the place. Like, I'm amazed at everyone being so shocked because to me, they've actually been as underwhelming as I expected, mate. Like, I just watched this team and I'm like, what strengths do they really have left? Like, part of their problem, for example, is even when Mark Hoon was being touted as like MVP candidate, he was never like the 1v9 jungler though. It's like the rest of the team had to play well for him to look like that player. So to me, this team's really fallen apart. Like, I keep looking for where the bright spots. Like, I'm trying to find an angle to still care about them, but they're actually sort of a little bit in the Koi territory for me, man. I just don't really give a fuck about this squad. Like, I watch them play and I'm like, whatever. Who cares on this one? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, they're not a super compelling team. The main thing that's fallen apart for them is the bot lane. Their bot lane was just originally a top tier bot lane in Europe when they were doing well, when they got top 4 in playoffs in winter. That was because their bot lane was legitimately like one of the best bot lanes in Europe. They understood all of the bot lane combos. They were able to play the Lucian Nami. They were able to play the Zera Yumi. They had everything that they could go in between. And now they're just an average part of the team. I mean, a lot of times they're even going to be like a negative part of the team. And, the rest of the team is set up for a bot lane to be a superstar. If you have a relevant on your team, you're essentially getting a weak side top laner. I know he plays Jax. I know he played a good Jax game in the final game of the week. But most of the time, he's going to be best at going even or slightly ahead, playing something that's going to be useful later on. And then the meta is just not good for Certus. Certus, like Annie, Nico, these are not his champions. Certus just needs an Akali meta, really. That's how I see him. He needs an Akali meta, a Silas meta. Maybe he could pop off there, which is something that they're going back to. It felt like now at this point, they just realized we just need to play our best champions. Jax, Akali, even if they're not the most meta, play our best champions and maybe we can win a game. they're lacking firepower, and I think the player that I'm most disappointed in is definitely Marcoon. I thought he was going to be top tier. You know, I've always thought that this guy was really talented, and it feels like he's just like fallen off. He's just playing at an average level. Nothing special going on with him, and he just needs to be better if the team is actually going to do something.
I am with you on the earlier topic, though. If you have to pick from the other squads that aren't Fnatic and G2, the obvious one is Mad Lions. Like, there's still quality in the roster. When they get it together, they still can look pretty good in the games. They have better coordination than a lot of the sides out there. The problem I have is, like, I'm trying not to project too far forwards, but I've already told you, like, there's just so many players I don't believe in internationally if they have to play anyone good. Like, this is the team that will just look like a clown. But I guess we're in LEC. In LEC, they should be good. Like, I expect them to get through the group stage easily enough. They should mix it up in the playoffs. Who knows? There's a world, no one knows how this new Fnatic lineup will play once we get to best of fives. There's a world they can make a fall again. They can make another run. Like, since there was no Vitality resurgence like I hoped for, if you look at the rest of the squads, no one else is really. BDS has just been way worse. Mad Lions, they should clear. Actually, they should be top 3, top 4. It should be pretty easy from this point for me. They look pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the teams they're going to be playing in best of threes, you've got a team like Koi, Astralis, XL. Like, these are going to be the teams they need to beat out. Like even Heretics. Sure, like Fnatic at G2, I think they're just going to be like the teams that qualify to the winners bracket. They'll just be top 3 based off the group stage. But when you look at the other teams in the league, I mean, Mad Lions is just better than all of them. I mean, it's very easy for them, especially in a best of series, to draft against the other teams that they'll be playing against. Like XL, you just ban Azir. You look at SK, you're like, oh, we'll just ban Akali. Koi, don't give them super big mage comps. You could probably do the same type of thing that you do against XL, where you ban the Azir and you ban control mages, like assuming that Koi actually watches the games and tries to improve, and they perceive that that's the best version of themselves, which I don't know how it's not, because it's been the best version of Rogue for like 3 years. I think it's very easy for Mad Lions to play against these teams. And I don't think the Mad Lions are that easy to ban out. I mean, everyone will say ban Gragas, but they can play outside of Gragas. They're not like one-tricking Gragas, and that's the only reason they win games. It's just if you give them Gragas, Niski is going to play really well within the game. So, I mean, I think they're just a top 3 team. I don't think anyone else has shown anything. And yeah, I mean, they're defending champions, right? So they should have some level of confidence in best of 3s and best of 5s, because they literally got it done last split.
By the way, when you were saying that, actually, about some of the different players, it just made me think of Koi again, mate. Because think about this, right? So I'll name some players, Tom. So you got IWillDominate, Hansama, Inspired, Trimby. The players who leave this fucking team are better than the players that are currently there. Like, look how bad their lineup is now. The joke is they've made like a fucking all LEC lineup of players that have sold or get kicked out the team. Meanwhile, all they've got now is like Larson and half of Corpse that's just fucking just moving, and then it's like, oh, he's still alive. No, that's just nerve damage. You know, like, basically comp is that like fucking, when they have those images on the internet where, because people believe anything about China, you see those images where it's like a dead squid and then someone pours that soy sauce in it and its legs all go like this because all the salt makes like the fucking nerves twitch, and everyone's like, it's alive, they're sick, they're eating, it's alive. It's like, 1, they do sometimes eat them alive, but 2, that's just the salt, like I say. That's just comp every game. Like, it just gets going in one team fight. Like, oh, he's still like, there's something there, there's movement. Nah, that's just gas escaping.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It's garbage. I think they've GM'd their way like the reverse of every movie, mate. You start with the band of misfits and you gradually get together and get one better player. And they've gone the opposite way. At the end, there's just Larson like, hello? Like, there's just no one there. There's no one left on the team, mate. What is this?
Yeah, no, Koi's roster, I mean, it's got to be one of the most confusing GM jobs. I mean, especially when you hear of the way that things went, where it's like, oh, like Odo just needed to be off the team, and then there was the conversation about like, okay, the players just didn't want to play with Trimby or Odo. I don't understand. I can't imagine Maurong, Larson, and Comp sitting in a room and being like, you know who needs to be off this team? It's fucking Odo and Trimby. This Trimby guy, this guy that came out of nowhere and became like the best support in LEC, that's got a drastically different champion pool to everyone else. Like, not only can he play the aggressive supports, he can also play the shaders. Yeah, he's the problem. We want to get rid of him for Advian. Why would you ever want Trimby for Advian? That is the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals. Like, this is like Louisiana purchase levels of like value drop on Trimby. What the fuck, man? Like, I don't understand anything that's going on here. But apparently the players just didn't want to play with him. So I don't know if he's just like if he's really controlling or he wants to be too much of a voice within the game. To be honest, I would just deal with that. If he's winning you games, if he's somebody who's as good as he is, you probably just take that and accept that, yeah, he's not going to have, maybe he's not like the most tolerable person for their personalities, but he's going to get you wins, and he's definitely better than Advian. Like, the only way you trade Trimby is if you see somebody else that is a really, really exciting prospect. You're like, okay, you know what? We could get Mickey X or something. We could get fucking Hylissang. That's where you could maybe pull a trigger. But Advian, I don't think he's bad. Like, maybe he's like bottom tier LEC level. Like, he should just be one of these guys that floats around. Like, he's on Astralis for a split or XL for something. Maybe he's that level of support, but I don't think he's not shown me anything that makes me believe he's going to ever be a top tier support in LEC.
You know that old joke where it's like, you know, a guy goes to the doctor and he goes like, doctor, it really hurts when I do that with my arm. And the doctor's like, just stop doing that then. That feels like how they fucking GM in this team. So in this team, they're like, oh, the problem is, I know we've just won the LEC, but stick with me, okay? Because I've heard that in teams like G2, what happens is when you win too much, I know we've only just won once, but listen, we've just won, okay? So when you win too much, you don't want to sort of like cripple your dynasty. You've got to change something big to keep it fresh, you know, get some fresh blood. So who's been in the team a long time? IWillDominate, just get rid of him. Just get him out the team. Bring in that Shigenda guy that definitely worked in all those other teams like Vitality and all this. Yeah, bring him in. Yeah, bring him in. Right. Ah, shit, that hasn't worked, has it? Well, fuck. Right, we need to change something else. What's going on? What's the main problem in the team right now, Freddie? At the moment, we're losing a lot of scrims. And the problem when we lose a lot of scrims is Trimby really cares a lot about winning. So he gets upset and visibly frustrated. And then some of the interactions between the teammates are negative because, you know, they're losing and then he's upset. And he goes, right, so kick him out the team and then there'll be no more complaint about the losing, right? But I mean, I guess that's one way to solve it, isn't it, Fly? Whoever it is I'm talking to, okay, right, kick him out the team then, whatever. But well, the problem is, what if we bring in someone else and they really care about winning? What if we brought someone in who gets really annoyed at the level? Just bring in Advian. He's literally the human equivalent of the color beige, and he's just Dutch. That's his only two qualities that everyone defines him by. Is one, he's Dutch, and two, he's not Marcoon. So there you go. Sit down. How you doing, Advian? All right. I'm Dutch and I'm not Marcoon. Job done. Right, let's play. Then they just fucking lose all the scrims again. At the end, I guess they go, and how do you feel, Shigenda? He goes, I got 1.5 solo kills. Carry the game? Nah. And then they go, what about you, Advian? How you doing? I'm not Trimby. And he goes, that's my boy. And then they just fucking turn out like this to go, you all think that's a joke. That's actually would be a more reasonable explanation of whatever they did do when they GM'd this squad. This squad looks like there's an old school reference from the 1980s for you here, Dom. There's an old movie that fucking, what's his name was in? Oh, fuck, I'd have to remember the name of this. Who is the name of this guy? Let me look up quickly the name of this actor so we can just... Richard Pryor, the legendary African-American comedian Richard Pryor, was in a movie in the 80s called Brewster's Millions. And it's a comedy plot, Dom, where the premise goes, this guy finds out he's secretly like some obscure relative of a guy who was like a billionaire. But because he's a nobody, the billionaire guy who's died has done that thing where he's like recorded videos of like what he's going to say to his heir. And what he tells him essentially is, because you're like my heir, but we didn't even know this, and you have no connection to me, I'm not just going to give you my billions. You've got to take like a few million and you've got to spend it all within this amount of time. And if you spend it all and you waste it, it'll teach you all the lessons about how to like care about money and what not to do. And then what I'll do is if you spend it all within this amount of time and it's all gone, you get the true billions. Like the joke is that's what this looks like. It looks like they're trying to intentionally tank this team and just piss away all the assets, give all the good. Remember guys, remember what I just said earlier? So Inspired, he was just off as like one of the best players in the whole LCS the last few years instead of fucking Malrang. The Malrang thing worked for like a split and a half. Then you've got fucking Otto, right? Even as shit as XL looks, he nearly always looks like one of the better parts of the team, and he could walk in tomorrow and play a fucking Gnar for this team and be good on Koi again, surely. Then the whole Trimby one, he immediately looked good from game one on Fnatic. And then, oh yeah, you know Hans Sama, I know he was shit in Team Liquid, but spoiler, he's in the best team in the LEC right now. Like, how much worse of a job could you do GM in this team? It's like the fucking Fly guy has the opposite of the Grey's Spots Almanac. He has the one of all the shit that doesn't happen, and he changes his team to do that. Like, this is fucking terrible, mate. Like, because the problem, like I'm saying, is they've just lost all the flair for the team. Like, I'm a big Larson fan, but there's nothing to watch in these games. I'm just watching him farm, and then the game's over. Like, what am I watching?
Yeah, no, it's tough to watch for sure. It's tough to watch for sure. I think the big problem for me is when I hear behind the scenes that it's like the players didn't want to play with the other players, then I don't know like who's actually at fault for this. Because if you don't because the main thing they say is, oh, we didn't like this guy. Inspired was too much. Like he was just too like negative. Like he just ruined the whole environment. I could see that. Like Inspired's definitely an asshole. Like if you talk to him, you just know he's just an asshole, right? Like that's just who he is. He's somebody who is going to be really blunt. He's going to be really negative if the team is losing. That's just his personality. He's really fucking good. But if you can't get along with him, and then you also can't get along with Odo, then you can't get along with Trimby, at what point is it not like the team where it's like, okay, maybe the problem is the way you guys are interacting with other people. If you don't like anyone, like who, like you don't like any of the other good players, like sure, you can have maybe a better environment with some shit players, but wouldn't it be better to actually get some fucking wins? At the end of the day, like you have to be able to cope with playing with bad players. As long as you're winning, that should change everything. Like that should be enough. I feel like the win should have solved whatever internal team issues they had. Like they got that win, and then as soon as everyone believes, oh, we actually won, that means we can win. We can win again. Like we know how it feels to win. It's not impossible. It might change the whole dynamic between the team when they run it back. They might all just believe in each other again. Like winning kind of just cures everything. And so it's so weird to see how winning like destroyed this team.
Oh, it did. It's actually mental, but as bizarre as it is, that's why certain people aren't cut out to be winners. Like they want to win on their own terms, or make it friendly. It has to be fun. Like to me, that's like fucking hell. Winning's hard enough as it is, mate. Can we just win? We'll worry about all the rest of that shit later. Like I think we'll just try and win the fucking dubs first. Finally, if you don't have any crypto to put on to esports bet, you can play there for free. You can get DJT, make an account, log in each day. They'll give you 600 DJT. You can use it to play in competitions like the World's Prediction Series competition, make bets and predictions. If you do well enough, you can win more DJT, and indeed that can be converted to USDT. Check out esportsbet.io for more information. Right, what about this, Dom? A team that I still can't really get a read on has got to be Astralis. Like, there are still enough pieces there. They can clearly win games. They can mix it up. The thing is, though, I just don't know any reason why it can ever get better than this, if you know what I mean. Like this, I feel like they're too much of a known quantity for me. Like I don't even dislike them. I actually like some of the players. I even think sometimes the games get interesting, but I never believe they're a top team. And I do think it's a bit like the Crowdy thing. It is a nightmare for your absolute best player to be the ADC if you can't get the rest of the team going early. Like it's just like watching someone do a false start over and over again. Like you can never properly get going in the game.
I think that there's that. I think there's also just the fact that it is a nightmare meta for leader. Like he's supposed to be your player that can, really pop off and give you that extra flair that takes you over the top. Like he could be the player that brings you from being a 7th, 8th place team to being like a top 4 team. And the meta is just so shit for him. Like the fact that even though people suck at Annie and Nico in LEC, the fact that those champions exist, that's a nightmare for playing like assassins and melee champions and things like that. And yeah, like now we have a Zero coming back, and like we're on a durability patch, and everyone's fucking building crowd these days. It is really, really, really tough. It is really, really tough to be leader right now in this current iteration of champions. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens with 13-13, because it looks like Astralis will probably be able to sneak into.
Oh, they should. I mean, look at the strength of schedule. They're going to get a couple of wins, surely.
I hope. I feel like Astralis low-key could just lose to everyone. They could just lose to everyone and end on 2 wins. But 2 wins might be enough for a tiebreaker. Who knows? Like the teams are pretty bad right now. So, and especially the way that leagues work, when the top teams are more dominant, it means that the amount of wins you need to qualify just becomes lower, because obviously the top teams are just beating everyone. Maybe they can qualify on 2 wins. Hopefully 13-13 changes something for this team. But yeah, it's hard to believe in anyone right now. Like I feel the same about Koi. I feel the same about, I would feel the same about Heretics, but they've already qualified. XL, I would feel the same about.
You look at the rosters, mate. It makes perfect sense. None of these are just good teams on paper. Every team has like 2.5 players that are good, and it's like, will they get the meta that suits them? Will those lanes work? Will the coach draft for you? That's why this is why actually the phases of the LEC are perfectly timed. I couldn't handle if I knew there was 4 more weeks of BO1s, Dom. It would just be so garbage. But knowing I go to a BO3 and I get a proper sense of who someone is, how they'll adapt, that is going to perk me up again. That's going to get me going again after next week.
I can see that. I have a question for you, because I've been talking to a lot of players, and a lot of players really dislike the format. They hate this format because they feel like the best of ones, like 3 bad weeks and you're fucked. Like, what do you think about the format from a player perspective?
The problem is, because I come from CSGO and games like Dota's another favourite of my game where it's an open circuit. That's just sort of like what a tournament's like, though, Dom. You know, sometimes you have the bad start to a tournament and you just bomb out early and that your tournament's done and you have to sit back and watch everyone else play. I don't have a problem with that. Like, to me, I have to say, the reason I'm so sus when I hear that from players, Dom, is how the fuck are you in the team that is one of the only 2 out of the 10?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel too.
Surely you have to be insanely bad to be down there. You know what I mean? Like, even this one that you're talking about, there might be like some mad, like as you see on the table, there could be like some mad 4-way tie for like second or last place or something mad. But even so, that means everyone had to fuck up quite a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. In theory, I don't like BO1s, but I feel like the fact that you only have to clear being in the top 80% makes it not as big a deal for me. I would get it if it was like this top 6 make it out and the bottom 4 don't. Yeah, that would be sus, because then there might be a team that's actually legit good, but they have like a bad 4-way tie or one weird BO1 result, just some fluke. But actually, that's the thing I find bizarre. Normally players, that's almost like a loser's mindset. Normally a player would think more about like, what's the effect on like for example, if I'm a top player, what I'm thinking is, yeah, that's a downside, but the 3rd week's over, I'm playing best of 3s. I'm even less likely to lose now. Like, if I'm G2, I'm fucking loving this format, bro. This is way better than the other format where we fuck around with BO1s for 8 or 9 weeks. And then I might every now and then, like Fnatic and G2 have, be on like 7th or 8th spot. And I have to quickly get my arse in gear on last week. I'd way rather go to BO3s in 3 weeks, you know. This is where I'm going to win if I'm the top team.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard it from players that are winning, players that are losing. I'm just surprised that the sentiment is like that. And the argument that I've heard is that, and this is
the old format, basically.
Well, no, I mean, I'll just tell you what the argument is that I've heard. And I think that this is like a cope argument, by the way. This is not something I agree with, which is the reason why I brought it up. The argument is that because the best of ones matter so much and you need to be essentially, I mean, you got to be top 8 in the first 3 weeks, you don't have the ability to really try to be like the best version of yourself. You have to win now, so you have to band-aid a lot quicker, and you've got to just like start, you know, playing your best stuff immediately. And you don't have the ability to, you know, work on, for example, Nico and Annie. Nico and Annie are terrible right now in LEC. They've won 4 out of 17 games that they've been played. It's like 23% win rate. It just looks like no one can play it. Some players feel like the teams can't get used to playing those champions, because if they lose like these 3 weeks, if they lose like 2 extra, you know, BO1s against bad teams that they shouldn't lose, they're going to be completely out. So that's the argument that I'm hearing, which I think is kind of a cope argument, because, you know, you should be able to just, even if you're a good team, you should be able to just play like a couple champions that are not completely familiar and still win. I mean, we saw people do this in other formats as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's how it goes.
I would just ask them what they want to change to, because the thing I can't get is, surely no one wants to go back to the old system. Well, the old system fucking sucked. Like, if they have a different suggestion for me, like maybe instead of groups, the first phase is just around dropping a BO3.
BO3.
I'd maybe do that. Yeah, I'd maybe be up for that.
I think that's the angle. I think the angle is like BO1s suck, and like these BO1s feel like they matter more than the old BO1s, and people would just rather play BO3s.
No, I get that. It's just like I say, to me, because it's only 2 get eliminated, we basically are sort of got a compromise between those 2 positions already with how the format is. Like, here's the one thing I haven't heard so far. Have you noticed how not a single person, even on those bad teams that come bottom 2 in each split, no one's ever complained? Where are all the people like, this is an outrage, we're actually secretly really good, but we just couldn't get
they can't,
but I don't even get it behind the scenes, dude. No one seems to think that's legit. Like, they all actually, the ones I've talked to, the XLs of the world, they all just fully admit, like, yeah, we were absolute shit this split. Like, we shouldn't have made it through. We were bad. Like, I've never heard anyone complain privately. So I'm shocked that like top players might even think that, but whatever. It just shows how wacky players are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's just general disdain for BO1s and like BO1s that matter. So I've been
on that train for a while, mate. I think BO1 is shit, but whatever. I especially think, by the way, in League especially, is the final point I'll make. I think in League of all games, it makes the least sense, because you have the difference between the 2 sides, and it really does matter. Here's the maddest thing of all about League, Dom, is when you change patches, you can sometimes actually change the fucking side balance during one of those mega long LEC BO1 round robin splits. So that even though on the first week I'm on the wrong side, then when I play you the second time, I could be on the wrong side as well. Like, I could have the disadvantage draft both times I play you, even though the format just looks like it's perfect. We just take a turn each to play. Like that's why, to me, even though it didn't work, I actually understood back in the day why they tried to argue for BO2. It at least meant you played both sides of the fucking draft. Like, there was a logic to it, even though I understand it was ultimately unsatisfying to have a tie. I get that sort of. That's why formats are so tricky, in my opinion. You can't really check every box. You got to compromise something.
Yeah, and even the BO1s right now, it's like if you're playing all the BO1s on one patch, right? And if you're only playing 9 games, that means that you can't have equal amounts of both sides for every single team. So there's this whole thing that goes through it anyway. But yeah, I mean, BO3 is definitely, I'm a huge fan of him. Obviously, my favorite team is OMG, and if OMG was playing BO1, somebody had a stat, they would be like 2-8 or something if they were like, if they only played BO1s, because they always lose the first game, and a lot of times the first game they just get fucking like blasted. They get shit on the first game, and then they'll just come back and they'll win game 2 and 3. They'll make small adjustments, they'll make one draft adaptation, and everything will go well. So yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of BO3s in general, but yeah.
So that's what's going wrong for Vitality. If it was BO3s, Vitality would probably have won like 70% of them. Damn it, we just need that first game to warm up, get the draft set. We're experimenting a bit. Stop fucking trying to rein us in with your meta, Dom. Give us a chance. Let us cook, baby. Let us cook.
Maybe that's it. The funniest thing about Vitality is like, I don't know if you talk to players, right? And behind the scenes, everyone was saying Vitality is fucking good in scrims. Yes. People said there was 3 really good teams in scrims. It was G2, Fnatic, and Vitality. And I was like, all right, Vitality, they're doing well in scrims. Let's see what they cook. This has just been like one of the worst performances I can remember. Like, Bo, man, there's no way Bo is this bad. How could he possibly be this bad? I just don't believe it. I don't believe that Bo is actually this bad. I think I could go in there right now and play a better Maokai game than whatever the fuck he did versus Fnatic. Like, that was just disgraceful. Like, dude, I mean, the thing is, obviously, he fucking hates the jokes because of the connotation that he was like forced to match fix or whatever. But I looked on Twitter and the jokes are writing themselves. Like maybe he wasn't, bro. Maybe this is just what he was doing. So
especially because I'll just say, listen, we're assholes. That's what we do. Understand that, Bo. Our job in the West is to be an asshole and say all the mean things that everyone's supposed to just not say, but think in their heads and laugh at. So all I'll say is this, Bo. Technically, if you're going to match fix, you've got to look really awesome early on. You've got to win a lot. You've got to look like it's always worth betting on you, don't you? So then you can throw the game. So all I'm saying is you made a bed for yourself on that one, haven't you? Like, you just made it look great those first part of the split. Then you realised better back off, can't look unbeatable. So you backed off a bit in the playoffs. That's all good. Like, it's just sad. Because I'm with you, Dom. What I don't get, I told you, is the Bo haters, they do that thing where they just deny reality. Like, they just say he was trash forever and he was just like fake. Yeah. And he was.
That's veteran.
What I don't get about this is that's not how he's playing in these games, though. I agree. If he was playing like he did in solo queue and it just wasn't working, Dominate, it's just fundamentally flawed style. It doesn't work. He doesn't have the mechanics. Yeah, then I'd be with you. He's a fraud. This guy just looks like something has happened to him because of these official results and whatever's going on in practice. And he has just, I'm with you. I think he's just checked out. He's mentally checked out and he's just autopilot in the fucking game now. It's really sad because I actually would even tell him for real. Like, even if you int, I don't care. Just go fucking ham like you were there. Do that psychopath style. We'll play around it, mate. We'll make it work. I guarantee we could get a win doing this. Come on.
When you look at how he opened up in winter, and he was just like, he looked like the best player by far in the league in the first 2 weeks. It just looked like he was on a different level. Yes. And you see his gameplay now, you can't tell me that LEC is just so much better now than it was in like the beginning, that like this is just him being figured out. Something has happened for sure in terms of his mentality. It can't be physical. It's not the way that he plays the game. It's not like he just is, outclassed or the other junglers are just better or something like that. His mentality is fucking shot. Like, he's just completely out of it. And I think it's just a waste of a talent. I don't think that even if he doesn't play in another top tier region again, like maybe he has this bad run in LEC and then no other LEC team wants him. And he obviously like can't play in China because of the match fixing. And then, no one in Korea wants him because they don't think he's strong and he has to play in like Brazil or some shit. Even if this happens, like, I feel like it's such a waste of a career, because this guy really did have something special, and it just, I don't know. It just isn't working. And I don't know if he just doesn't have the mentality to like push through. I don't know exactly what the problem is, but it's clear that he had talent. It's clear that he had insane talent. He wasn't one of those like rank 1 players who got it by, doing he got it by cheesing or something. Like, people would always say, oh, Correa, like, he's rank 1, but all he does is play like Elise and Kindred and cheese people. It wasn't like that. Like, this guy was just playing everything. He could play other roles. Like, his talent was off the charts. And now when you look at it, it is just, it's just not that, man. It's really sad.
But what do you actually have to make of G2 then? I feel like it's actually a bit boring because if they hadn't have fucked around with that stupid Ward Nico move, they probably just would be 6-0 now. Like they just sort of like win the game because they should. They're actually it's the most logical team in the whole league, though. It just makes sense how they win.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that actually, because when I watch how they play, it's like I don't know what these drafts are. Their take on the meta is completely different than any other team in the entire world.
Assumption, like you're saying earlier, is they just win all the scrims again, Dom, and they can just do whatever they want. It just sounds like it's been like that all year long for this team.
I'm not as happy with the way that they're winning these games, though. I'll say, like when you look at the way that they're playing now, and where they're just going for, this Kog'Maw Braum every single game blind. Like I'm not sure if this is the optimal way to play League of Legends. Like I don't really believe it. Yeah, I just don't believe it. So we'll see. We'll see if they end up changing. But I thought that the way that they were winning games in winter, for example, when they were playing really aggressive and they were playing in the enemy jungle, prio bot lanes, like aggressive jungler, diving bot, I feel like that's a more reproducible strategy than this like pick Kog'Maw and just farm. Like that's pretty much what we're doing. Kog'Maw, Braum, and farm. Also, Kog'Maw, Braum, I don't know how they could just lane that into every enchanter in the game, but maybe they're caught on to something. I mean, they're doing this Braum Emax. It looks pretty good. Maybe that's the future. Maybe they're onto something. It doesn't resonate with me as like this is the strategy. This is like the best version of G2. And I feel like they're one of the teams that they're so good compared to the rest of the region. Like all the teams that should be challenging them. Obviously, Fnatic just got their roster together recently, so they can't really challenge them. And then you look at Vitality and they're just shit. Mad Lions has never actually been like a better team for a consistent period of time than the G2. I just feel like they're getting held back by Europe right now. Like no one is actually punishing them. Yeah, they need some resistance. It's like they don't have any weights left for them in their gyms. It's like they've been working out for a while and the highest dumbbells they have is like 30 pounds. And they're just trying to do like creative fucking workouts. It's like, well, maybe we could win with like Kog'Maw, Braum, and that will just make us a better team at like not relying on skirmishing and playing better macro. It's just they're trying to do the best with whatever they have.
The joke is, obviously, it must be in Hans Sammer's contract that he's allowed to go for MVP award anytime he wants. And so the problem is Mickey X was upstaging him a bit, so he's just permanently on Braum duty now because everyone knows if you play Braum, you will never, ever win a single MVP. You will never be acknowledged for doing anything. It actually really does just look like you are the guy, like, Mr. President, get down! And you just stand in the way of him with a big shield. Like, it's actually the most dog shit champion design ever in the history of the game. Like, think about how bad this is, Dom. It's a game where simultaneously you have steampunk technologies, you have arcane wizardry and lightning shooting, you have people teleporting, phase shifting, and then you have a guy, big shield. Watch out, coming through with a big shield. Watch out, I've got a fucking big shield here blocking stuff. Like, how does that even make sense? How is he blocking like etheric fucking energy weapons? How's he blocking the actual source power of the universe?
It's a magic shield.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, watch out. Oh, it's only a shield though, mate. Nah, magic shield though, bro. Watch this. And then why does he also do that weird like thing like out fucking Street Fight, like parrying the blows, like they use this Daigo with a fucking shield or whatever. You can tell that, look, there wasn't much left to talk about this one, guys. I started freestyle for the last few minutes there. Just like, you know what, we'll see how many loose connections to pop culture we can make.
I mean, look, it is what it is. You watch these games and it's like Hans Sommer has to be MVP because one thing about being a European League of Legends player is that if you're Spanish or French, you're just the king. You're always MVP. You're always getting all the votes. You're always getting hyped up. That's just it is what it is. That's European League of Legends.
Exactly. Too bad about Soy. Remember that team? Soy. Not Koi. Soy only. Although to be fair,
their play style, but yeah.
Although, to be fair, they are also just bad at being vegetarians. That's why they also eat fish. Koi in it. It's fucking Magikarp, whatever. I think that's it for this week. Here's the problem, guys. It just wasn't a great week, unfortunately. Like, the next one will be, because we'll have the conclusion. We'll see who makes it through. By the way, the actual thing that's probably going to be fun next week, we've never been able to do this before, Dom, is in the past, it was more like there would always be one really bad team, and you're like, I hope they don't make it through. Dude, whoever doesn't make it, I'm going to be fine with it next week. Like, I think the joke is it really could be any of, like, 2 or 5 different teams. But I just want to see who gets eliminated. I actually am quite excited to see who doesn't make it at this point in time. That's the more important thing to me right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Vitality doesn't make it and they can't qualify for season finals, that is like a historic collapse. That is probably the biggest failure in the history of European League of Legends. Yeah. Like, this is just crazy. So
because I mean, if you go
I'm
look at the
excited for it.
points, I'm almost certain they only have to make it to like. Is probably just an extra round to make the top 6 for the finals, right? They must have the points for it, surely.
Yeah, it really just depends on who makes it and who doesn't. I mean, the best possible situation for Vitality is if like the teams that don't have many points at all start making like decent runs. Like if XL starts getting some points and they like make 5th or something, yes. that's obviously like the best for them because they have, I think, 10 points combined. I think you get 5 for each split before summer. So like XL has 10 points combined. So there's like some fringe way where they can not qualify and make it. But at that point, I don't even want to see them play anymore. Like I want them to have to make it to get into the summer finals.
Yes. Well, that's the status for Vitality because it's so unlikely they will excel and make a run that their best hope right now is for XL to excel and make a run. And that's it. See you next week.